this tour that a lot of the East End is now being gentrified, and a lot of it's all being reclaimed by the city, and then a lot of the old East End is all just being kind of like knocked down and turned into these modern buildings, okay? But I also want to draw your attention back to, remember when we were in the churchyard, okay? And I pointed out that modern build, which is that one just on the other side of the road. Now, do you remember what I said about that modern build? That there used to be a street going right through the middle of it, okay? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Well, my friends, that is what it used to look like. And that, my friends, is a place called Dorset Street, which back in 1888 was actually known as the worst street in all of London. The place had some 30 common lodging houses, 8 brothels, 4 pubs, and 2,000 of some of the worst people you could ever imagine. The sort of people who made Billy the Kid look like Winnie the Pooh. A lot of the time, police officers wouldn't go down Dorset Street unless they were 10 strong and armed with guns. And if a rich man made it from one end of the street to the other with his life, let alone his wallet, he was considered extremely lucky. But about 100 metres away from where we're standing right now, just in the middle of Dorset Street, was a place called Miller's Court, a bunch of ramshackle tenements owned by an Irish pimp called John McCarthy. But if you went to the little archway right there, you'd come into the courtyard, and the first place you'd come up to was a place called Miller's Court. Number 13 Miller's Court. And at number 13 is where our last lady used to live. And her name was Mary Jane Kelly. Now, Mary Kelly is the youngest of our girls. She was 25 years of age back in 1888. Also, the only one of our girls who was Irish or Welsh, depends on who you ask. And also the only one of our girls who had constant accommodation. She had that one room at her gaff over there at number 13. She wasn't going doss house to doss house. She had her own room there. But by Friday the 9th of November 1888, it looked like she was about to lose that little bit of solace she had, because she hadn't paid her rent since the murders of Strident Eddowes, because she was too scared to venture out. Now, her landlord, John McCarthy, had been, rather, lenient with her because she was so scared. But after 6 weeks, and she's owing 30 shillings, that was a lot of money back in those days. So, he's actually warned her if she doesn't have it by the morning, then he's going to menace it out of her, and that's the place she didn't really want to be. So, then on midnight, the 9th of November 1888, Mary Kelly ventures out into the night to find herself some money, whether she has to beg, borrow, steal, or sell her body. It will take her a few hours, but eventually she'd be seen in the company of one of 2 men. Now I'll let you guys decide who she was seen with. So we have bachelor number 1. We have a man wearing a thick, wide-brimmed felt hat and a long coat with a fur trim along the collars and cuffs. He's wearing a fine suit with a gold watch chain going through his waistcoat. He's got fine boots on. He's carrying a leather bag. He's got calfskin gloves on. He's got dark, sunken Mediterranean eyes. Ooh, my lady. And he's also got a finely coiffured mustache. Could this be Mary Kelly's suitor for the night? Or could it be suitor number 2, the creepy-looking geezer with the dark peak cap and the dusty old coat? I think I know who I'm choosing. But either which way, we do know that Mary Kelly is back in her room at 3 o'clock in the morning. She was heard softly singing to herself. But near 11 o'clock in the morning on the 9th of November 1888, Mary Kelly's landlord's got sick of her not paying her rent. So he starts sending the debt collector around to number 13, and the debt collector is a big old hulk of a man by the name of Thomas Bowyer. Now, the guy's built like a tank, okay? No one messes with this bloke. So 10:45 in the morning, Thomas Bowyer goes round to number 13 to collect the rent, and he hammers on the door. But when he doesn't get answer at the door, he goes around to the window at the side, expecting to find Mary Kelly laying in bed sleeping off a hangover. But when he goes over to the little window at the side, expecting to find Mary Kelly laying in bed, yes, he would find Mary Kelly laying in bed. But not how he expected to find her. Because what the killer had left of Mary Jane Kelly inside of that room would haunt him until his dying day. Because what the killer had left of Mary Jane Kelly inside of that room, 100 metres away from where we're standing, is what I'm about to show you guys right now. What I'm about to show you is the only crime scene photograph taken during the time of the Whitechapel murders. It's an image when I first ever saw it, when I was 7 years old. Gave me nightmares. Obviously, I don't want to give you guys nightmares. But this is how they found Mary Kelly in her room.
What?
She had been annihilated. The killer had hacked her face beyond all recognition of her features. In fact, the only reason we know it was Mary inside of that room is because her ex-boyfriend had to identify her by the colour of her hair and the colour of her eyes. No one asked if her throat was cut from ear to ear and back again, because the only thing keeping her head onto the rest of her body was her spinal column. Both of her breasts were completely hacked off, one placed underneath her head, the other between her ankles. The whole of her internal organs were completely hollowed out and scattered about her body. The whole of her sexual organs were stripped out right down to the pelvis and placed underneath her head with one of her breasts. And the flesh from her thighs was stripped right down to the bone, which you can see protruding right there, placed on the bedside table next to her intestines, and the skin peeled down like a pair of stockings. In fact, if you want a little bit of an additional to this, my friends, it's believed that Mary Jane Kelly's left arm was detached from her body. But if you follow that down, you'll see this wound right here. Can you see that there?
Yeah.
Those are defense wounds. At least she tried to fight the guy off. Thing is, the only thing they did not find of Mary Jane Kelly inside of that room was her heart. Because wherever the killer had taken that, he has literally wrenched it out of her chest, stuck it in his pocket, and walked away. So where the hell has he walked away with it to? That's the big question. So after the death of that innocent 25-year-old woman, the murders cease. So what happens to the killer? It's not like he's Dracula. It's not like he goes poof into a cloud of smoke. This is a flesh and blood man with the flesh and blood of 6 women on his hands. And over the last 129 years, forgive the pun, we've all had a wild stab in the dark guessing who was Jack the Ripper. From butcher, baker to candlestick maker. From the highest in the land to the lowest in the gutter. And over the years, we've speculated that it might be members of the royal family. Like maybe Queen Victoria's grandson, Prince Albert Edward Victor. Apparently, he got caught up in this whole thing because he fell in love with the wrong woman. He fell in love with a common woman. And he married her and she sired his child. But Queen Victoria's not having that. She's not having none of this mess. So she decides to have the whole thing broken up, and the baby falls into the hands of Mary Jane Kelly, who then thinks it's a very clever idea, and a bunch of her mates as well, to blackmail the Queen. So, Queen Victoria, not handling this very well at all, well, she could either pay these women off, or she could just like basically ignore them, and they could go to the press, and no one really believed them. But no, Queen Victoria's not having none of that. So, does she hire an assassin? Yes, she does. But who's the assassin? Is it some some competent person? No. She sends her 70-year-old elderly doctor, Sir William Gull, out to the streets of the East End in a carriage to slaughter these women with the temptation of grapes and dosed in laudanum so it can actually get them on the floor, and then slashes their throats, disembowels them, and takes out their intestines in accordance to some ritualistic styling adopted by the Freemasons. And as soon as